ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Esteemed FaceTime with Leaders, an initiative by World Development Corporation. I'm Sunny Panchori, anchor at World Development Corporation. FaceTime with Leaders is a platform for industry titans to share their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices in order to inspire one another and future leaders. In a nutshell, we attempt to encapsulate the multi-decadal learnings acquired by these industry leaders. We also hope that by conducting these FaceTime with Leaders interviews, we can bring together a global community of eminent personalities. By bringing together such visionaries on one platform, we hope to play a part in inspiring the lives of other leaders. Great learnings from great leaders undoubtedly assist everyone by identifying, nurturing, and using the trade secrets that are proven success formulas for many. And this is what we aim for with these sessions, by making them a gathering of industry stalwarts and a knowledge-sharing community. We have one such multi-domain giant on FaceTime with Leaders with us today, Mr. J R Vaidyanathan. He has over 2.5 decades of experience spanning diverse segments such as information technology, automotive and manufacturing, financial services, supply chain, retail and high-tech CNC machine tool manufacturing. All through, he has consistently demonstrated qualities of visionary leadership and strategic acumen. Currently serving as the Chief Operations Officer and Executive Board Member at Decisions Mind, a prominent cloud data and AI platforms and solutions company, he continues to excel as an analytics evangelist, change catalyst, and organization builder. Welcome to FaceTime with Leaders. We appreciate your willingness to share your knowledge and engage in this conversation.
Good morning and thank you. Thanks for having me here today. It's my pleasure to be here on the show.
Pleasure to have you, sir. So, Mr. Vaidyanathan, could you please let our viewers know in brief about your career journey so far with important professional milestones, decisions proving pivotal in your career path, etc.?
Oh, absolutely. So it's been a very interesting, exciting, and an eventful journey thus far, right? Where should I start? So let me step back and talk to you about how it all started, right? Straight out of campus, BITS Pilani, with a campus job. Very soon, 2-3 months into it, as management trainee, realized that what I wanted to do was completely different from what I've been put through, right? I've always wanted to kind of be on the ground with the in thing then, which is the CNC machines, right? Computer numerically controlled machines. And I didn't get a chance in my very first campus job. But then I was always looking out for, getting into the area of my passion. I was lucky enough to get a break very soon, pretty early in my career. So got into a CNC machine tool manufacturing company that was getting set up in India with the collaboration of Warner and Swasey USA. Warner and Swasey was the number one, CNC machine tool manufacturer in the whole world. That gave me an opportunity to start from where I wanted to start, right in the middle of the shop floor, right, on the ground, understanding. So we were setting up this factory, which is to manufacture computer numerically controlled machines, turning centers and machining centers. With Fanuc control, the Japanese Fanuc control, the German numeric control, Bosch controls. We were, kind of, you can say, founders at that time, setting up this from the grounds up. That was a world of experience, right? And to ask for right in the beginning of your career. So we were designing jigs, fixtures, machining, very, very precision components for automotive world and the, space industry. We machined components like the crankshafts, camshafts, right, engine blocks, wheel hubs. We also machined bombshells for our ordnance factories. That was quite a bit of learning, right? I mean, you learn to kind of set up the CNC machines, write the PLC algorithms, for machine control systems, do the programming per se, right? Setting up jigs and fixtures, how to hold the component, how to machine, at what rate you have to run the machine. I mean, it was something which really, I was passionate about, and I was lucky to get that, break. In fact, I vividly remember setting up huge drawing boards in my home and, setting up the drafter and practicing, all designing of all these components. But very soon, within a year, I would say, we all moved to the first ever AutoCAD, right? So we started designing components and machining toolpath in AutoCAD, toolpath in AutoCAD and all that stuff. So it was kind of a, very good learning, and especially in the area of my passion. So that is how it started. And like I said, this being a kind of a startup, we being the founding members there, we were setting up the whole operations in India, right? Right from the setting up of factory layout. We used to call it cellular layout. What goes where in the assembly line of the machine tool, the subcomponent assembly line. We were learning and implementing a whole lot of Japanese manufacturing techniques as we were kind of setting this up. Like the TPS, if you would know, Toyota Production Systems, then the just-in-time, the Kanban, the Kaizens, the TQM, Total Quality Management, the SMEDs. SMED is a single-minute exchange of dies, because you want to quickly change over from component to component on the CNC machine. Lean manufacturing and enhancing throughput, right? That is, so when I said throughput, I must mention this, very interesting anecdote. I'm still a tennis player, so I'm an avid tennis player. And I used to play tennis, lawn tennis for my university. My then MD in my first job came to know of this and invited me to play tennis with him, right? So we used to go and play tennis together, and we ended up chatting about, what do I think about how this company and operations is being run. He wanted a, fresh mind to talk to about his perspectives and things like that, right? While we were talking and discussing all this, he introduced me to all these Japanese techniques that I was talking about, right? The various techniques by which the Japanese kind of ruled the roost in the automotive industry during that time. And he also gave me a book, which changed my whole perspective of how companies operate and how companies should ideally operate, right? The name of the book is The Goal, by the author is Eliu Goldratt. It's an amazing book, written in a fast-paced, thriller-style storytelling. Very gripping, at the same time, very, very informative in terms of changing. It brought about a paradigm shift in the management thinking at that point in time. Very transformational in terms of how companies should be really run. If I were to recall the summary of the book, it is like this, right? It is about a plant manager by the name Alex Rogo. He's a harried plant manager, who kind of is desperate to, regroup himself and his team to kind of avoid a disaster, which was, the impending thing in his plant. If he had only 90 days to set the plant right and get it back into operations and efficiently operating it, right? Just 90 days. Otherwise, the headquarters would come and close the plant. That was the plot of the whole story. And he meets by chance as Professor Jonah, right? Who is a consultant and who is kind of bringing out, he is Eliu Goldratt. They won't say that it's Eliu Goldratt in the book, but he's Eliu Goldratt. Through the story, he talks about how to understand the problems, prioritize those problems, and go about solving them, right? And he starts off saying like this: the whole purpose of the business is to make money. And rest all what we do is a means to achieve that goal. Right? This is how the book starts. And he talks about 3 very critical measurements. Right? One is throughput. These were terminologies which were not very common in those days. Right? You talk about production planning and control, finished good inventory and all that. But look at the shift that he made. He talked about only throughput. So the rate at which the system, which means the whole operations, right? The rate at which the system makes money through sales is called throughput. It's not the production rate or anything. You have to make money by making something, right? When you produce something, you need to make money, realize in terms of cash. It's the order to cash. So he talks about throughput, then he talks about inventory, right? He defines inventory in a very non-traditional way. All the money that the system has incurred or invested in purchasing things that it intends to sell. That is what is inventory. Then he talks about operating expense. And operating expense, he has a very good definition which goes like this: all the money that the system spends in order to turn inventory into throughput. Right? So these were some of the fundamentals that I learned, working in my very first job in a high-tech manufacturing industry. I sincerely suggested all the professionals, budding professionals, if they have not already laid their hands on this book, they must, right? And implementing these principles enabled my understanding of the big picture, right, at a very early age, as to how a company should be set up, how a company should be run. I mean, that is, I should say I was very lucky, right, to get that kind of an exposure very early in my professional career. Though it was in the high-tech industry to start with, later on when I switched to the IT industry, we were bringing these concepts that we learned and implemented into the software world, right? A whole lot of learnings were plowed into scaling up, nurturing and advancing the IT industry per se. So those early learnings stood me in good stead, very significant, I would say. Then I switched over to, L&T, Larsen & Toubro, which was a big customer for our CNC machines. We were commissioning a lot of CNC machines for L&T. That's how I came in contact, and they wanted to hire me. So I became a part of Larsen & Toubro, wherein, again, I was pretty lucky. There was a huge change happening at L&T, in terms of overhauling and re-engineering the complete operations. At that time, they called it Business Process Re-engineering Program at the enterprise level, right? So I was part of the team that embarked on this transformation. Very useful learnings. We were re-looking at every single business process value chain and every single business process within that, whether it is procure to pay, whether it is order to cash or supply chain, retailing, all across. We were kind of looking at the business processes to bring in the efficiencies needed. No value-added processes and activities were eliminated, and it was a very strenuous exercise. But the point is, very intricate and in-depth learning, right, to decide on what should be the optimal way of conducting business and business processes. And that actually led to the design of MRP2 systems, we used to call it. We used to call it MRP2 systems before the terminology of ERP came into being, right? Enterprise Resource Planning is holistic, but before that, we used to call this MRP2 system. So at L&T, we developed our own MRP2 systems in-house and implemented it. And that stood me in good stead because of that rich experience. I was hired by Ramco Systems then, which was embarking on a very ambitious journey in terms of becoming the first ever Indian ERP design development company for the world, for global customers. So I joined Ramco Systems with that kind of experience, and then achievements in Ramco Systems really motivated me to kind of share all the learnings on the ground at L&T and earlier on. In fact, we had immense success at Ramco Systems as an Indian ERP company. We released 2 versions of our ERP for global customers. By virtue of being part of the team that developed the ERP solutions, I had the opportunity to travel the world, meet with our esteemed global customers, implementing, demoing the product, implementing the product, customizing the product for, very, very eminent customers like ITA of Switzerland. ITA is the world's largest swatch manufacturer. So I traveled to Switzerland, implementing at ITA, then Sunkist Machinery Division in California, then Sherman Papers in Wisconsin. So a whole lot of customers, right? A world of experience, implementing this kind of ERP solutions to varied customers across the world. After that, I had a brief stint at Inotics Technologies, which is into development of trading platforms and settlement of trades, and in that space. Then I had my breakthrough in terms of getting to the next level of growth and opportunities, and the next level of learning, if I should say that, as an opportunity with Computer Sciences Corporation, which is CSC, right? Started as a program manager for Ford Motor Company, right? And I was instrumental in helping Ford Motor Company set up their offshore captive center in Chennai. And a great opportunity to work not only with Ford. Ford at that time owned a whole lot of portfolio in terms of they owned Mazda, they owned Volvo, right? They owned Jaguar and Land Rover was with Ford at that time. Then we had an opportunity to work with Toyotas of the world, Hondas of the world, BMWs. Across these automotive companies, I was kind of developing solutions along with them and with their IT and business in the areas of CRM, in the area of digital retailing. Earlier on, they got on to developing their websites, and customer comes to the website to configure their vehicles and all that. Integrated marketing per se, then global supply chain, warranty solutions, right? Telematic solutions. In fact, we developed something for Ford, which is called, if I remember right, Sync My Ride, which was the very first ever voice command, a system in an automobile. So we were the first ones to develop that. And while this was happening, yes, most of the companies, most of our customers were very, adept at understanding the need for ERP systems. They had their transaction backbone in some form or the other, right? It could be Oracle, it could be SAP, it could be JD Edwards, it could be BAN, whatever it is. They were kind of getting their transaction backbone in place. So when this was in place, humongous data was getting gathered, right? Transactional data. Then I used to think, and I strongly believe in this, the best time to think what next is when you kind of sense comfort and complacency, right? Okay, everybody is into some other form of ERP. They are adept at automating all the transactions, right? Transaction backbone is in place. What next? So that set me thinking. And that time we were engaged with, from our company with McKinsey also. They were consulting for us, strategic consultants for us. So we were thinking, okay, with all this data, the next big thing would be, we didn't know it is going to be called big data and all that, right? It all came later on. So we were thinking, okay, what do we do with this data, right? In fact, I used to say companies were becoming data rich, but insights poor. They were collecting humongous amount of data, but they didn't know what to do with that data, right? So that's when, analytics started coming in. They started slowly understanding their own data. they started kind of putting together data architectures which were conducive for pressing analytics algorithms into action. All that happened. Later on, they called it big data and all that stuff, but we started doing early. Then from there on, started engaging with financial services industry, started doing solutions for credit risk assessment and fraud analytics and all that stuff. Then engaged with insurance customers where the name of the game is risk, but they used to operate in a tailor-made policy-driven approach rather than customer-centric approach. Every customer had different needs. So we changed the game for the insurance industry by assessing the risk and changing the underwriting according to the risk, right? And personalizing the policies, not one size fits all, right? In the automotive insurance world, we started collecting sensor data through telematics units. We started analyzing and understanding the customer driver behavior, right? And started rating the risk, and accordingly help the companies fix the premium. Risk adjusted premium, we used to call it, which was, the first time ever the industry was grappling with this kind of data and wanting to know what could be, how could that data be, exploited and used and leveraged for driving business outcomes. After that, I came into Hexaware. That was again at the right time when a new set of leaders came into Hexaware. We were, as a leadership team, trying to change the way and perception of Hexaware in the market, right? They were known for being a PeopleSoft-centric company. They were delivering PeopleSoft, centric solutions, but we were wanting to reposition Hexaware, reimagine Hexaware, build a whole lot of portfolio of services, transform them into a digital solutions player, a major data and AI player. So I played a very pivotal role as part of the leadership team in that. And some of the exciting engagements and how we made a difference to our customers would be like, we worked with one of the largest mines, copper and gold mines in the industry, to kind of improve their throughput, right? We call it pit to port throughput enhancement initiative, huge initiative, right? Collecting a whole lot of sensor data right from the blast site to, collecting the ore, filtering the ore and putting it through the, at the port of, transportation, very big exercise. The kind of sensor data that we had to handle were in the scale of petabytes. And we had to crunch that data, glean insights out of it, and drive business decisions. So which was a very useful learning. That was in the mining industry. And worked with one of the largest stock exchanges, where we were dynamically helping them build those indices. If you know the index that they kind of publish, people just blindly follow that and invest, right? It contains a portfolio which is kind of giving you results. If you were to invest, by yourself, analyzing all the, stocks and, what is getting you what returns and all that, you instead follow the index that they publish as a portfolio. If you invest in that, and you get your, risk and returns balanced investment strategies. So we help them in that, in building dynamically those indices. That was again great learning. And I would not complete my journey if I don't talk about the healthcare data companies that I worked with, right? Every healthcare company is kind of striving to become a data company because they thrive on data, right? Patient data, pharma data, right? Life sciences companies which provide data into how those drugs are discovered, where it is used, right? How efficient they are. So a whole lot of data-based solutions were developed for life sciences and healthcare companies. And in a nutshell, I think the journey has been very exciting. And I would think that it is only halfway through, a long way to go, right? And, right now, I'm part of that phase in the journey where I'm at the helm of a high-tech company which is into data and AI solutions. We are helping customers, build their data-driven, agile, and adaptive companies for themselves. So we are partnering with our customers in helping them build those kind of companies. So that's in a nutshell, the journey that I've had so far. Pretty exciting, and look forward to the remainder of the journey.
Okay. Mr. Vaidyanathan, thank you for the excellent start to this interview. It's an honor to interact with someone who exudes such a strong corporate personality, really. So continuing our conversation, our viewers would like to know, given the intricacies and multiplicities of job roles you have handled, what are some of the core principles that have helped you throughout your professional life?
Okay. So, yeah. See, one thing that really motivates me is not just building, capabilities for the sake of building capabilities, right? I tell my teams the same thing about technology also. It's not just the passion for technology. It's not technology for the sake of technology. What really matters is what problems are you going to solve by acquiring those skills, right? What outcomes are you going to drive? So that is an underlying, very strong fundamental that keeps driving me, right? And let me give you some examples, some interesting, examples during our engagement with our customers. My approach and advice has been like one that of a problem-solving mindset, right? To be able to solve problems, the first step is to even identify a problem ahead of others, right? Identify the problem and understand the problem definition per se. What exactly is the problem, nature of the problem, and then comes the solution, right? And that's how you solve problems. So that is a very strong and core, skill that I bring to the table. And I also keep motivating my teams to kind of, get on to the problem solving mindset and work with the customers. One of such, very, ahead of the time kind of solutions that we developed for one of our customers I can talk through is developing of warranty solutions. And this was a global customer which was spending multiple millions of dollars in settling warranty claims, right? What they came to us with was a problem that they have understood in terms of, hey, this is how the cash outflow is in terms of we perennially having to incur this kind of expense, having to settle warranty, claims and all that. And we don't seem to be having a good track of what's happening in the warranty space. So we kind of went there, assessed what is happening. We could have, as we were engaged only to develop a system for settling claims efficiently in the warranty space, we could have just stuck with that. But we went ahead and said, it's not about settling claims that addresses your problems. That is the first step. It is about getting to the root cause, understanding of each and every component failure, plowing back that learning into R&D, product R&D, and preventing that similar failure from happening again is what is going to make a difference for you if you are really thinking of doing away with that multiple $1 million of warranty spend. So when I articulated this, the customer was like really, really enthusiastic. They said, yeah, man, this is exactly what we're looking at. I mean, we don't want to be kind of, spending this kind of colossal money every year on year, on warranty. So what was supposed to be a simple development of warranty system, we converted it into a co-working engagement wherein we kind of brainstormed with them. It's a global customer, so in 165 countries. And we started off, we didn't pick all the 165 countries, we specifically picked a region with 17 countries coming in and developed a prototype for them in terms of developing a warranty solution, which included root cause analysis, plowing back into R&D and preventing a warranty problem from happening. So that's the problem-solving mindset I'm talking about, right? So that clearly differentiate yourself and also the company that you represent and the teams that work with you. They also see value in your leadership when you take them far and beyond the ordinary and enable them to see, through the problem and see a larger big picture of the whole thing. Then supply chain solutions, when we develop, it is not just about creating visibility for supply chains. Definitely not, right? It's about optimizing the supply chain, right? You have to know the metrics in terms of what's the current spend, what is the kind of rules and algorithms that are embedded as part of the supply chain solution, where are the bottlenecks, how are you going to remove the bottlenecks? You have to do a Pareto in terms of not all bottlenecks need to be solved at the same time, 80-20 rule, right? There is a whole method to this whole madness, right? In terms of how do you approach this, prioritize this, and very often this is not going to be new, right? Clients coming and tell you we have limited budgets. So you have to make best use of their budgets, and they are always looking for a big bang for their money, right? So we need to be very clear in prioritizing and solving their problems based on the impact that you can create, right? Similarly, when in the IT industry, when you talk of moving to cloud, it is not moving to cloud for the sake of cloud, right? Everybody now you hear is jumping onto the bandwagon of moving to the cloud. It's not about moving to the cloud, but it's about, again, what business outcomes are you going to drive by moving those systems into cloud? Changing it from the traditional on-prem architectures to cloud architectures, what is it that you're driving as business outcome? That is more important. And it is not technology first again. Though I'm a hardcore technology enthusiast, it is not technology first again. It is all about starting with business, understanding the business problem, and leveraging technology to solve those problems. So these are some of the things that, and my customers have taught me a whole lot of useful lessons along this journey, because more often than not, when you engage with customers at the C-suite, you will understand that they do not care for what all you know, unless they are very clear in their mind as to what problems you can solve for them, how are you going to solve, and at what cost, and how soon can you solve. These are the questions, and that is true with the current AI investments and AI madness that is happening around the world too, right? It's not AI for the sake of AI. What is the impact? What is the business outcome? That's the mantra.
Interesting, quite interesting and exceptional though. Mr. Vaidyanathan, that leads me to my next question. So you are kept up with the dynamics of the technology field. What has been the reason for your incessant upskilling?
Status quo is the most dangerous thing. Right? I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes, right, by Christopher McDougall. It's from this book called Born to Run, right? Wherein he says, every morning somewhere in the world in a jungle, a deer wakes up thinking that, it has to run faster than the fastest lion to save itself. At the same time, that lion also wakes up in the jungle thinking that it has to run faster than the slowest deer. Otherwise, it will starve and die. So this is, something that I used to reflect on, very often. And that helped me form my own perspectives in the context of the industry in which I operate and, the industrial ecosystem. So it doesn't matter whether you're a deer or a lion, right? You have to be always on the run. Point number one, right? And the second thing is, whether you're a deer or a lion, you must outperform, right? You must outperform your own peers in the industry where you play the game. And also be always aware of the fact that your next worthy competition may be from outside of your industry that can come in, and you could be caught unaware and you could be destroyed. It's not just being the fastest among the deer, but also having an eye for the lion. which is outside the industry perspective, I would say, right? So these are some things which were clear in my mind when I used to reflect on that. There has to be continuous learning and continuous running to stay up in the race, right? And like I said, never liked the status quo, always had the inquisitive mind to ask for what next and adapt myself. And also, very pertinent, quote, Darwin's theory, if you remember, right? Origin of species. Very clearly he says, what a wisdom that is, right? I mean, it is not about the most intellectual that survives. And it is also not about the strongest or the fittest. It is the one that best adapts itself to changing environments that survives. So incessant learning has got to be ingrained in everybody's way of life. And if you're a naturally inquisitive person and curious to learn, no end to it. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So now that we have discussed your career journey, your professional pursuits, roles and responsibilities, let's move on to the subject of ESG and corporate governance.
Yeah.
So here is my question to you. As you have been on a board before, do you believe that the current corporate governance framework offered by the government of India is conducive for the corporate sector?
Oh, of course. I do believe, but it's a continuous journey. Like I said, we discussed just a little while ago, it's continuous learning, continuous journey that keeps you on. No doubt, whether it is the MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, or the SEBI, right? They have put in place the necessary framework and structure, also in place. And as a board member, I would think it's our duty to ensure that the organizations that we serve follow those practices to the hilt, right? The rules of the game in all fairness, with utmost accountability and transparency, right? And in my opinion, to be able to do what I just said, there are certain key elements that needs to be kind of forming part of the board and the key management that operates a company, right? There has to be utmost independence for directors, right? And at the same time, directors should be allowed to kind of utmost independence is fine, but the directors also owe a duty to be not misusing those kind of empowerment and independence, stay unbiased, stay diligent, right? And very often than not, even in your operating teams, more so with the board, a clear focus on diversity helps. Different mindsets, different perspectives, right? It could be gender diversity, it could be experience diversity, it could be geographical diversity. All these things really, really add value to the entire framework in terms of how the board operates. Regular, compensation reviews, evaluation of CEOs, key management personnel compensation reviews, and compensation disclosures and transparency, in those terms. And we talked about director independence. One of the key things I would think is auditor independence, right? Auditors should be really operating independently without any financial interest in that company in which they are auditors, right? Accounting issues should be kind of highlighted in a very transparent manner then and there, bring it to the attention of the board, audit committee, the board. They should work towards questioning things which ought to be questioned, bring in the clarity and transparency, and kind of help this framework that is put forth also to evolve. With every single mishap that is happening in the industry, for ages, right? And even till the latest of mishaps. I don't want to name the industry and the mishap, but without going into it, has taught us something, right? where is the gap, how to fix that. And it has been evolving with every such happening. And we have to have our eyes and ears open to such things. The best thing is to kind of, understand, assess the internal control systems and the various guidelines and framework that are in place to gauge if they are suitable or do they need any modification and changes to take corporate governance to the next level. That is what would be my endeavor, and that motivates me to the hilt in terms of looking forward to my next role in terms of adding value to the industry.
So building on to that, I would like to quickly ask you, as a corporate governance expert, what values do you bring along?
Yeah. So I would say, there's a whole lot that, that I can bring along in terms of starting from the very simple things of, first of all, as a board member, attending punctually all the meetings, right? And be an active member, understanding, what is happening, getting into the nitty-gritties and seeing how things are happening. It is not just about signing off the board reports as a board member, right? There is a lot more to it in terms of value add that one can bring in. Whether I serve, whichever committee, it could be audit committee, it could be the NRC, it could be the SRC, it could be CSR. You can bring an immense value, right? If it's the audit committee, I can work towards bringing in integrity in terms of the financial statements that are prepared and submitted, right? Having an oversight on that. And if it's, let's say, NRC, evaluation of the CEO, the board performance itself, being an active member of that, remuneration of the CEO, paper performance, culture and succession planning and all that. If it's an SRC, stakeholder relationship committee, withholding the rights of every single stakeholder, shareholder, and acting without any bias, right? And given my background, I can play a very pivotal role in the formulation of the overall company strategy and steering the ship, guiding the executive management in terms of executing on the strategy, agreed strategy with the board, right? Then comes the business responsibility and sustainability reports, the one that you asked, right? What do you think of the ESG thing? That's an equivalent in India for ESG, right? Investors are, very, very clear in their minds that they want the ESG scores and the ESG reports before they kind of invest in a company, right? So how can we genuinely strive to take the corporate governance standards to the highest level would be my endeavor. And having said that, above and beyond all of this, what's been in my mind is the new age companies need, relevant and new age board members, right? You see that every company is a data company, every company is an AI company, irrespective of the industry that they are in, right? So the boards need fresh minds and fresh energies with the right skills and background, right? In what is transforming the industry or across industries. With data and AI impacting every aspect of operations of a company, the role of a board, as I see, is most critical like never before going forward, right? Most of the companies that I kind of engage with in right now in pro bono, advisory mode, people do call me to kind of, discuss, and the board that I serve as part of my current company, there is always this fear of missing out, right? Should I embark on, let's say, generative AI? Should I invest? Or should I wait for people to understand, where they are investing, what will succeed and all that? Actually, there has to be a trade-off, right? You can't wait for everybody to succeed and you be a laggard, right? Or you kind of jump into the bandwagon and early on and fail and teach others what not to do, right? There has to be a balance. So with the background of mine, I'm looking forward to bringing a lot of value in those terms to the companies that I'm going to be on board and prepare the companies for the road ahead. So that's the value, immense value that I can bring to the companies that I'll be on board. Does that answer your question?
Definitely, Mr. Vaidyanathan. Thank you for sharing your mind on ESG and corporate governance and what values you can add to this whole space. Okay, we are talking about big data and AI from the onset of this interview. So let's dive more deeper into the technological space. And here is my next question to you. As someone working closely with technology, what are some of the most remarkable changes you have seen in your field with changes in technology? That is part A. And part B is, what changes do you expect to see with the advent of IoT, AI, ML, blockchain, big data, Web 3.0, etc., etc.?
Oh my, that's a loaded question. We can keep talking the whole day about it, right? So let me try to kind of be succinct and summarize, what I think the future could be and how things will pan out across industries. What role has technology got to play in that and all that, right? See, as we discussed, I see a very clear trend in terms of rise of the data-driven, agile, and adaptive enterprise of the future. And that is where, irrespective of which industry they are playing, everybody is striving to become an agile and a data-driven enterprise. Simply because humongous data is there. There is no dearth for data, right? There is no dearth for compute power. Earlier on, it used to be very costly, but today, compute power is the cheapest that you can get. And algorithms, to be able to crunch these petabytes and zettabytes of data, when all of these things converge, it's a happy space to be in, right? I mean, that's why keep hearing AI, data, algorithms, and AI-driven processes and all that like never before, because technology convergence has made it possible. And so everybody is continuously in the path of building capabilities to understand their customers better, right? Collecting humongous data about their own customers, notwithstanding the privacy issues and all that, right? There are ways and means to handle, data privacy and things. So every service provider is trying to understand their customers, as I said, in depth, differentiating their value propositions to the context of the customer. If I can say, hyper personalization is going on, right? We call it the cluster of one. It is not about category of customers, segmenting customers. You have to understand every single individual customer, their needs, their initiatives, their challenges, right? That's the way the world is moving towards. And that is called hyper personalization. And what is enabled is data and AI. And AI is going to be infused all across, from the current level of being used for select use cases. You will see going forward that AI would be all pervasive, across business processes, across roles and functions. And this would be enabled by the democratization of AI. The technologies that we kind of build AI platforms with to develop AI solutions, embed as part of our company's operations, is changing the game and democratizing AI. It is not in the realm of a few data scientists anymore. A business owner should be able to operate and leverage AI solutions, right? That is how the world will move towards now. You don't have to be an expert in the algorithm, but it's enough if you are able to invoke that API, invoke that algorithm, take out the results, act based on the insights for your business role. That's how the world will move. So that's what I call as democratization of AI. And you also asked about IoT, right? So let me touch upon that. IoT has kind of enabled one of the biggest changes, right? The way industrial products are manufactured, delivered, operated. In fact, they call it product as a service. The other consultant jargon for that is servitization, which means nothing but product as a service. So servitization is to do with the digital platforms that connect people, devices, physical objects, anytime, anywhere, by spewing data by the millisecond. Right? That is how IoT is enabling. You see sensors everywhere, in every product, and human beings are also filled with implantables and sensors. Right? You can collect all your data from the cloud about your own health. So the buyers are expecting very many things as I engage with my customers, right? In a fast-changing world with IoT enabling all the sensor data collection, and what should I say? Their expectation is, let's say I'm a Boeing manufacturer, right? And they do not, like the yesteryears, it is not about Rolls-Royce as a supplier just supplying engines for it. They want Rolls-Royce to kind of monitor with all the sensor data in the engine, collect all the sensor data, not just give me sensors. To be able to collect all the sensor data and ensure the output from the engine, which is nothing but the thrust per hour. See the change IoT is bringing about, industrial IoT. It is not about Boeing buying an engine, aircraft engine from Rolls-Royce. It is about Boeing buying thrust per hour. That is what I call as product as a service or servitization. So that's a huge change, right? That is why you see digital twins, simulations happening, right? I've been lucky enough to be a player in this space, and be an evangelist in terms of what all use cases we can apply, such sensor data solutions in the space of IoT. Even in fact, I was surprised to see some of the hospitals in India too during COVID times, right? Very, very relevant scenarios, right? The hospitals were running out of oxygen cylinders, if you remember, right? And there were sophisticated oxygen cylinders fitted with IoT sensors, which will indicate the rate at which the oxygen was getting consumed, right? And these IoT sensors would enable the consumption, an analysis of the consumption patterns in hospitals, and place a replenishment order, depending on the lead time to kind of get it to the place of requirement. It'll adjust the lead time and place a request. That is how IoT is changing the world we live in. And that is one thing. And even if you talk about, recently I was in my headquarters in the Bay Area, experiencing the, automated car, right? Driverless cars. It's an awesome experience, right? I mean, the mobility experience service, as I would call it. So this is the height of servitization, right? You can be Googling and sitting back after telling the car your destination, right? And the sensor data, edge computing, right? This is a classic example of edge computing, how powerful it is, how it is going to navigate through the traffic and get you safely to your destination. So these are the major changes that are happening. And another thing is, while some of the folks in the end of the spectrum are struggling to understand AI and infuse AI, the matured ones are already embracing automatic AI, or should I say automated AI, right? Because huge number of parameters when you want to crunch through your algorithms, humongous data that you want to crunch. It's not manually feasible to be, preparing those models, preparing the data for those models, ingesting that data, gleaning the insights, and acting on it. So there are very clear examples of how automated AI ML will be the future, right? And why I'm saying all that is, fundamentally, to answer your question, how do I see the world changing? The nature of what work means to us to every role function, and how people will work is fundamentally changing. Right? It is as radical as the industrial revolution that we witnessed or the internet revolution that we saw. The roles people play in organizations will fundamentally change. The org structure of the organization will undergo massive changes, both upstream and downstream. It will impact the organizational function. What people are going to be hired for will change, what skills they bring to the table. How many people will be hired for a function will also change. I'm not saying it's going to be automation everywhere and there are going to be job losses. There are going to be value additive jobs that are going to be created in collaboration with human machine interfaces. Right? People will start to do a value additive job than what they are doing currently, manually doing some repetitive tasks. So that's going to be a huge change. What functions they are deployed in, right, with AI supporting in their role function, that's going to change. And how they are going to be educated, you can't leave alone the education sector behind when the industrial sector is going through these massive changes. What they are going to be educated on, the syllabus will change, the educational institutions have to gear up to they can't be teaching internal combustion engines when it's the era of the electric cars, right? So everything is going to change. And the way the training is imparted is changing. We are already seeing, right? 3D printing is coming in. You recently heard in Bangalore, 3D printed post office was installed in a matter of 3 weeks, right? And also, one of the major changes that is happening in the pharma industry is drug discovery and vaccines, right? We all witnessed it with our own eyes during the COVID times. What normally takes years to produce a vaccine, test it out and distribute, took us hardly a few months, right? You may call it industrialized biology, you may call it biopharma 4.0, but the fact of the matter is the world started to understand the challenges very quickly, started to kind of implement newer ways of kind of producing products and output at much faster rate, right? So these are going to be some changes that are going to be driving the future organizations. And having said that, one other thing which I always say is, creativity will become,
it's 12 o'clock.
More of a science than art. With all this generative AI and things coming in, and as they are adapted at scale, my thinking is creativity will be becoming more of science than art. Why I say this is your creative art will be, defined by not how good you are really good at that art, but how good you are at prompt. Prompt engineering of, making the generative AI algorithms to LLMs to work for you. So you'll be becoming, and that's a good news, right? Even left brainers like me who are into data and analytics all the time can now, get creative with the generative AI supporting me. So I can create music, I can create videos, I can blog with the generative AI. I will retain my originality, but my iterations can be that much more faster. The resources, time, and cost that I consume with the support of generative AI is going to lead me to, very fast and accurate results. But we are still in the phase where there is going to be a new quest for truth. Trusting these machines blindly is not going to help us, at least for the time being, right? Are things factual? These are questions that are getting asked of the LLMs, the large language models, and the GPTs of the world, right? Implementation of the LLMs. Veracity of what is being said and what is being generated is being questioned now. We are in that phase, right? It is being validated because machines do tend to hallucinate, right? So we are in that phase where we are kind of leveraging those technologies, but finding our ways and means to perfect it. Very soon it will happen, very contextually it will happen industry by industry. I can't wait to kind of be a part of this.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing so insightful views on the technological space and landscape. All right. So before we conclude our session, one last quick question to you. We are building a community of industry magnates. The move is meant for cross-pollination of knowledge and building a knowledge-sharing community of corporate giants and industry experts. So what are your thoughts about these initiatives taken by Mr. Zishan Pathan, Mr. Heval Mehta, and the whole team of World Development Corporation?
Yeah, I most certainly think that it's a great initiative, right? Bringing together industry veterans like me on a collaborative platform to be able to share their, experience through their journey in the corporate world. And they are creating a very conducive platform to be able to kind of get that collaborative learning going. It's a great initiative, and they're doing a phenomenal service through, bringing people like me together, cross-pollinating ideas. That's the fastest way of learning, right? Sharing and learning from each other. So I would think that, they should continue to do this. And I can only be saying this from my part that should they need me to be able to, help them with anything that they want to expedite in terms of technology-driven collaborative knowledge platforms, I'm there to help them out.
Great, great. It was fantastic conversing with you, and I'm confident that your insights will inspire future leaders. Thank you, Mr. J R Vaidyanathan, for joining us today. Wish you the best for your future endeavors. Moreover, trust that this initiative by Directors Institute has unquestionably expanded the participants' understanding and enriched the minds.
Absolutely. And thanks for your time too. And thanks for having me here on the show today. Look forward to engaging more.
Thank you. Likewise. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too. Cheers.